I don't like this, John.
What's not to like about a boy digging up his childhood spaceship? It's the most natural thing in the world.
Hey guys, this is Spoonie, and I just saw that new My Adventures with Superman show. I was really excited to share my thoughts, but if you want to avoid spoilers or just to get to the point, I'm going to sort of give my review now. I do like the show, and I feel like it has a lot of potential for growth. We get a lot of teases that indicate that there could be a connection to the wider DCU than is what normally associated with Superman. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into it. The show is centered around Lois Lane, Clark Kent, and Jimmy Olsen, and the episode starts out with a big day for all of them. Jimmy and Clark, who are roommates, it's their first day as interns at the Daily Planet. And for Lois, who's already an intern at the planet, it's the day she's pitching her story about some Evangelion looking anime robots to Perry White. We get introduced to the villain behind the robots. Her name is Leslie Willis, which is the identity of the Superman villain Livewire. We will see her transformation later. We also get to meet the News Kid Legion, who are Lois's sort of sources on the street. It's obviously an updated version of the Newsboy Legion, which was created by Jack Kirby in the 1940s. He did revitalize them in the 70s when he came back to DC and he started doing his Fourth World stuff. Anyway, the news kids tip them off to more robot smuggling shenanigans down at the docks. So they go investigate and they're caught sneaking in, and the robots are deployed. Lois is able to shut them all down except for one. Clark finds some old clothes and uses them to hide his identity while he sort of beats down the last robot. And after the battle, when describing what happened, Lois comes up with the name Superman. So their only corroborating evidence, which are Jimmy's photos, are blurry and so therefore unverifiable. Clark ends up going back to Smallville to dig up his ship and learn more about his origins. A very Odin-looking Jor-El, speaking only in Kryptonian, shows Clark the destruction of Krypton and how he survived. It also bestows upon him the suit through a really weird transformation sequence I'll talk about later. So Lois has a room in the basement of the planet where she is able to Pepe Sylvia the location of Leslie Willis and is able to catch her in a meeting with a mercenary. Willis gets double crossed and starts to fight the mercenary, but she's wearing this like power suit thing and it starts to overload and electrify her. And so she starts to kind of change into Livewire. But Clark shows up in the suit for the first time as Superman and subdues her. So the trio break the story at the planet, but the byline of the article credit goes to three other people, so they're pretty pissed. Meanwhile, at a secret location, we can see Livewires being interrogated by that mercenary. We can see he's not alone, and he mentions Task Force X, which is the Suicide Squad.
Who are you people?
Oh, that's easy, Willis. We're the good guys.
Good idea.
Okay, so some of the things I liked about the show. The animation was good. It's definitely anime inspired, and I felt like the action scenes, in particular, looked very fluid. And there were a ton of little teases and Easter eggs throughout the episode. Now, whether they go anywhere or not, it's, I think, a great way to start the show because my interest is piqued and I'm, wondering where this could go because there's a lot of interesting things that they put in here.
Bad idea.
And now some of the bad things. First of all, the logo is jacked up. Second of all, the show very badly wants to be an anime. From that sort of aforementioned transformation sequence. To some really awkward visual gags. This aesthetic can sometimes be annoying. I personally think that whole transformation sequence is a one-time thing. It occurred as he was getting that info dump from Jor-El about Krypton and its destruction. And later on in the episode, we do see him change out of the suit, and I think he hides it under his bed or something. Anyways, they also emulate many anime end credit sequences by sort of having, it looks like they're going to have a different sequence for each episode. Um, Ultimately, it's Jimmy walking across the screen as the credits roll, but in the background, there are photos that he's taken throughout the episode, I guess, that are depicting scenes from the episode. Now, here's some of the stuff that got me excited about the episode. It is speculation, so take it with a grain of salt. So, that mercenary that Livewire fights in the episode is Slade Wilson, also known as Deathstroke. Because you see him briefly in action, and he kicks a lot of ass. His costume is blue with orange trim and accents, and especially in the final scene, the way his hair hangs over his eye, it's because Deathstroke traditionally is missing an eye, so it's kind of like an eye patch or covering his eye. Even without having to mention Task Force X, I think at this point Amanda Waller is a very recognizable character in the DCU, having been in multiple cartoon shows now and movies. Her involvement with this, I guess potentially some version of the Suicide Squad, looks like this show could develop into something a lot more interesting than it appears at first glance. The third person in that room in the last scene, I personally think, is a character called General Wade Eiling. And here's why I think that. On Lois's conspiracy board, there is a newspaper clipping that mentions a company called Amazotech partnering with the military. Later in the episode, we also see a billboard for Amazotech. Now, Amazo was a robot who fought the Justice League. He was able to duplicate the powers of any metahumans around him, meaning he was basically like a one-man Justice League. And then later on, the Justice League fought a different robot called the Shaggy Man. Now, the Shaggy Man was indestructible, basically due to his hair's ability to synthesize solar energy, not unlike Superman. Anyways, the League ended up beating the Shaggy Man by literally shaving his hair off and leaving him on the dark side of the moon, out of, the reach of sunlight. Anyways, sometime after that, the character of General Eiling, who's traditionally a Captain Atom foe, he retrieved the Shaggy Man and transferred his consciousness into the robot and called himself the General. So I think the show is taking these two different sort of robots and combining elements that can better suit the story. In the News Kids newspaper, there is a comic page that has a panel showing the original Newsboy Legion. It also shows the hero that they worked with, the Guardian. So the crossword section of the newspaper has, I found several references. So the first, I think most obvious one is Guardian, who, when we combined with the literal image of him on the other section of the paper, I'm thinking that we might see some kind of current version of the Guardian, maybe even potentially acting as kind of like a mentor to a young Superman. Two of the other crossword answers were Bigfoot and Moon, and the Shaggy Man was a Bigfoot-looking thing that the JLA defeated on the moon. Not sure what Goofy is, but Glob, I feel like, is a reference to the character Glob created by Jack Kirby in the 1970s when he did his Sandman series for DC. Neil Gaiman would later incorporate Glob into his Sandman title for Vertigo. Now, that could just be another Kirby reference in a sequence that's already full of them, or it could be teasing something more. I think it'd definitely be crazy if they introduced a version of the Dreaming and or the Endless in this show. So, Jimmy is a conspiracy theorist.
Like paranormal metasapiens. It's the term for the super intelligent gorillas France has been hiding.
The French gorilla he's referencing here is likely Monsieur Malat, who is a talking paramilitary ape who's in love with the brain in a jar. Seriously, you can thank Grant Morrison for that one. Jimmy has a YouTube channel, and it's called Flamebird. Flamebird was the identity that Jimmy Olsen in the comics used when he and Superman fought crime in the Bottle City of Kandor. And lastly, the three of them, when they're miscredited in the newspaper, the byline credits are for Cat Grant, Ron Troop, and Steve Lombard. All three are regular supporting characters at the Daily Planet in the comics. I think this is meant more as a joke that they were kind of just like ignored and looked over. But it is possible that we may see versions of these characters in the show. In the comic books, at least pre-Flashpoint, Lois's sister Lucy was married to Ron Troop. Okay, so my personal scoring system, where 3 is good, 2 is okay, 1 is bad. I would give this a 3. I liked it, and I recommend it. It has a lot to do, mainly with all the sort of teases and things that I'm excited that they might the paths they might go down. But the show itself is decent, and like I said, the animation's pretty good. So I'm going to continue to watch this. So comment and let me know if you've seen the show or if you are maybe planning on watching it later and what you think. Otherwise, I would like to kind of do this as a regular sort of series, so I will be back next week after the next episode. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.